So all this classified advertising has moved to the web. Recruitment advertising is where Indeed.com. Real estate advertising is on Craigslist. Car ads are becoming all these companies that buy your used car and then, market it. So, online companies that'll buy your used car. There are lots of them. So classified ads. So papers lost a lot of ad revenue that way. And moving right along. Yeah, there's Craigslist. So we've covered history of newspapers right from early times in the colonies with Ben Franklin up through thousands of newspapers in the country, being the primary way for folks to get news. And advertisers to local and national to reach folks, and yellow journalism, and William Randolph Hearst and the Hearst Corporation, and Joseph Pulitzer, and USA Today, and the decline in revenue thanks to radio, and then thanks to the internet. And let's talk now about how do you buy newspapers. So newspapers are two kinds of newspapers. They're national newspapers. There's just a few of them, and then the rest are local. And when we say national, we don't, it's not like national networks, TV networks that are just huge. The national newspapers, in terms of reaching the whole population with a national newspaper, you're not going to do that. But you can reach opinion influencers, certainly, business executives, politicians, with the Wall Street Journal, and to a lesser degree, but also with the New York Times, USA Today, national newspaper with a circulation of 2 to 3 million. Parade and USA Weekend are what are called Sunday supplements, and they are printed by separate companies and then sent out to newspapers all across the country to be enclosed or included in their Sunday editions. And you can buy, this is one way to get, pretty broadly national with newspapers, Sunday supplements. But again, all the rest are local. So the way to buy local newspapers is similar with out of home. You're going to go to SRDS, Standard Rate and Data Source, owned by Kantar, owned by WWP, and huge agency, mega giant. And on SRDS, you're going to pay a subscription of $1,644 for a 1-year subscription for one person. It's going to enable you to go and look up your geography, and it's by DMA, designated marketing area for newspapers. You're going to pick whether you want an actual printed newspaper or digital. You're going to get the names of the companies. You're going to get contacts and phone numbers at the company. And so you start there and put your plan together. Then you start calling the papers and putting together whatever program you want to do, whatever sections you want to be in, whatever days of the week to reach your target. So newspapers are good for news items. Newspapers are, who wants yesterday's paper? Nobody. Let's go back here a second. Whoa. Can I go back, please? Okay, sorry about that. So newspapers are good for retailers who want to have a sale and have people know about the sale and go out and do something that day. Newspapers have their reach in one day. It's read that day and it's thrown away. You can do some segmenting. One way to do it is urban versus rural, dailies versus weeklies, morning versus evening, not so big a factor anymore. But the main way to target is the content you're with. You can be in the sports section. You can be in the lifestyle section. A lot of newspapers run food content in the lifestyle section on Wednesdays. So there's travel sections. So you kind of target by the content you want to be in, which is by section mostly. Here are a couple of categories. Pre-printed inserts are called freestanding inserts sometimes. These are a bunch of coupons printed on glossy color paper. It'll come in your Sunday paper normally, sometimes in the middle of the week for grocery stores. They'll have their special sections pre-printed with their things they have on sale. Sunday supplements are Parade and USA Weekend. So there are different types of newspapers, different places, things you can do with the newspapers. Here's a pre-printed insert example from some local retail, it looks like, that would be inserted in the paper. And here's community newspapers. My house at Lake George, the nearest community newspaper that came out once a week was the Times of Ticonderoga. You get regional news and you get local news. And it's nice to get the local news. And then you get these local advertisements right on the front page. Air conditioning, roofers, construction, all kinds of things like that. And then here's a website for, this is the website actually for newspapers. It's really kind of the trade association for newspapers. Let's see if I can get it up here. Oh, looks like I might be getting it. Oh, yeah, okay. So I should be showing this probably later when we talk about the players and the business of newspapers. But this is their trade association. Okay, so there's things going on here. So they lobby for newspapers with the government, and they try to help to market newspapers. Whoops, back to this again here. Let's just go back to the show here. Okay. So as I said before, in buying newspapers, you want to be near the right editorial, and you want to talk about what day of the week you want to be in. So you can see here, there's some differences here. The sections, some of the sections, lifestyle, sports, business, sort of a metro, local section. This is actually content I just kind of pulled in this year to try to expand on this a little bit. This is from the sales kit, sort of part of the website of the New York Times. And it shows how they are selling their audience and selling the fact that you can get the Times on your phone. I get it on my phone. I also get it on my laptop. I read it every morning. Finding new ways to keep readers engaged. Here's something else from the Times website. So you can buy the newspaper, you can buy the Sunday magazine. They also have a style magazine you could buy, so they can put high fashion in the style magazine. So that's another way to differentiate the content a little bit. And they're also selling ads and podcasts, which they do at the Times. They have something called contextual targeting, which is a pretty interesting concept, where they actually can look for certain keywords in the editorial content and try to put your brand next to keywords that you've identified as kind of good ones. But you can be on videos with the Times, right? Because it's also a website. Here's New York Times, 5.6 million readers. New York Times Sunday readers spend 61 minutes with us, more time on average than readers of leading lifestyle, fashion, and business titles. It's pretty cool. Then here's all the awards they've gotten for their editorial. So we talk about buying newspapers. One way to look at buying them is to look at how a really good newspaper sells itself to buyers. Here's the contextual targeting. See, new technologies push the envelope and extend the definition of contextual targeting. You target attributes. Emotions, controversy, and social engagement are just the beginning. So there's our different ways they can help you target based on analyzing their content, for certain words and certain types of articles, and can put you there. So it really is, the content can affect someone's feelings, and the ad can be placed in a way such that those feelings are, shall we say, taken advantage of or piggybacked on by the ad. Pretty interesting concept. Spending, I think we looked at already. Newspapers are the green here. And this shows newspapers actually being pretty healthy ad spend, much more than 6% that we had in the earlier one. I think the earlier one is more of a futures projection. It was 2021. And this is showing the decline, 18.7% of total ad spend internationally to 15.1%. And I think we can assume it just continues going down, and that's why 2021 has 6%. Here are the biggest newspapers in terms of U.S. circulation. These data are a couple of years old, but probably not that far off. And here I mentioned before we were going to look at international circulation, and over 9 million for Yomiuri Shimbun in Japan. And there's another Japanese newspaper, the second largest circulation. USA Today, 4 million. Now that's the international circulation. That's U.S. circulation was it 2 million something? Yeah, but there's big international circulation. So you see a lot of Japan, some Indian newspapers, Wall Street Journal, New York Times. So, to reach, 2 million people in China, you're not reaching a big chunk of the population, but are you reaching opinion influencers? In many cases, you are. These are the biggest companies in the U.S. Gannett and Gatehouse recently merged about a year ago. We've got Tribune Company. We have Hearst still owning newspapers. Advance is the same family who owned Condé Nast, owns some newspapers. McClatchy, Times Publishing. Rupert Murdoch News Corp owns the Wall Street Journal. Jeff Bezos owns the Washington Post. Boston Globe is owned by John Henry, who also owns the Boston Red Sox and the Liverpool football team. He bought it very cheaply because the New York Times Company had owned it for years. And it used to be worth a lot of money, and he bought it for $70 million. It used to be worth $700 or $800 million, but no longer. And there's Jeff Bezos with owning the Washington Post, which gives him a newspaper that's heavily influential in Washington, D.C. Pretty interesting. Yeah. So this Tronc is another newspaper company. Used to be Tribune, is now renamed. Strange name. I'm going to stop now, and then we'll pick up, and I think it'll just be a little kind of finishing section.